time to grow with the SEO Queen. Receive the perfect leads like never before. No traffic is gonna explode. It's time to grow.
Welcome to the SEO Queen Tech Show, a podcast to help you get more credibility, visibility, and profitability through inspiration, technology, and marketing insight. This podcast is for professionals and entrepreneurs who are looking to get more customers, clients, and patients. We are on Bashani Radio, iHeartRadio, and iTunes. Bashani Radio, always talking about everything from New York City. You can listen to the SEO Queen Tech Show on any mobile phone or tablet device. Also, as a thank you gift for listening to the SEO Queen Tech Show, you can go to SEOqueen.com and download the free ebook, 101 Ways to Improve Your Marketing and Sales. So I am super excited and honored to introduce to you the executive director and founder of the International Coalition for Alzheimer's Research and Education. I want to share a little bit of his bio with you guys. With nearly 20 years of experience, he has a diverse leadership background in academia, administration, clinical practice, and community outreach. And I have to say that Dr. Joseph Morris has truly been a joy to chat with. He has earned so many professional degrees and certifications, which include a Bachelor's of Science in Nursing, Postmasters of Science in Gerontology as a nurse practitioner, and a Postmaster's Geriatric Clinical Nurse Specialist certification from my alma mater, Go Blue.
Go Blue.
University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. Now, Dr. Morris obtained his PhD in philosophy and nursing science with an emphasis on Alzheimer's disease and biobehavior from the University of California, Los Angeles, in which he graduated with top honors. He was recently named UCLA School of Nursing's Alumnus of the Year. This was in 2017. He has a Villager Award in Leadership 2017, the iHelp Foundation Executive of the Year Award in 2017, the American Nurses of America, California, and the Presidential Leadership Award in 2018, and so many accolades. You're going to have to go to SEOqueen.com to get his bio and more information. This is a new feature on the SEO Queen website. I'll be profiling all podcast guests on the site. So make sure you go to SEOqueen.com, put in a search for podcast guests, and he'll pop right up. But I want to get right to it. Dr. Morris is also an author. I want to introduce to some and present to others none other than Dr. Joseph Morris. How are you?
Fine. Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show. SEO Queen that you are. It's truly an honor, and I'm deeply honored and humbled to be featured on your show.
Well, I'm excited to have a conversation with you because there's been so many things going on. Alzheimer's affected my mother's father's partner, and when I was a tween, it was rough. It was rough. So I'm really looking forward to talking to you about that topic. I mean, I've interviewed so many PhDs on the show lately. The bar continues to rise for the SEO Queen Tech Show guests. So thank you so much for contributing to that excellence. So what made you pursue a career in the sciences and particularly the medical field?
Well, thank you again for having me on your show. And I have to put in a quick plug really quick for those out there that are listening that have loved ones that are suffering from Alzheimer's. It's with a Z. Sometimes we pronounce it Alzheimer's. And if you grew up in the South where I grew up, sometimes we call it old timers or sometimers, right? But it is spelled with a Z. My right. People's ALZ. All right. Right. So that being said, I grew up in the South, where oftentimes, dealing with mental illness or cognitive impairment is a phenomenon that's not discussed much, right? We seem to shy away from issues that relate to mental health, and particularly the elderly.
Taboo. It seems taboo, talking about mental health and mental illness.
Yes, you're correct. And Alzheimer's is one of those disorders that, and the data has shown that it impacts African Americans more than any other race within the United States. And the disease is characterized by different factors, and we can get into that a little later if time permits. But for the lay audience that's listening, this disease, it causes permanent memory loss, and there currently is no cure for it. It is a disorder that it really causes a lot of stress and strain, not only physically, but also financially on families. And practically, we just have, in the Black community, we just have not had the true face-to-face, heart-to-heart conversation about it. And I don't think we're financially prepared for it. I really don't. I know growing up in the South, my mother used to tell me, as I get older, if you put me in a nursing home, I will come back to haunt you. And she also have said things like, when I die, I want to die with all of my organs. So when I get to heaven, I got to think and see what's going around within those pearly gates. So we don't participate in research. We don't harvest our organs to be donated to science for the research. And also we just are not in a position where we talk about the financial responsibility that comes with caring for someone with Alzheimer's disease. So I decided that this disorder is not only impacting my family and many others around me, that this is truly, in my humble opinion, a state of an emergency. We must address this issue. There needs to be a national campaign that focuses on this matter. This matter is the sixth leading cause of death in America. And disproportionately, as I said before, African Americans are impacted the most.
Yes, I am. So what drew you to just, the medical profession before?
Just seeing so many of our African American, both younger and older adults, just faced with the challenges of access to healthcare, also getting over the fears of the medical community, and also being. I know when I was very young, I was afraid to just get a regular checkup. As I've gotten older, I realized that many of us suffer from PTSD. I call it the post-traumatic Tuskegee syndrome, where we really has passed down through. It was the issue of the Tuskegee syndrome was passed down throughout generations, on not trusting the medical community, and for African American males. We have, for the most part, have been challenged in those areas of access and even just trusting our physicians,
Right.
and even finding someone that looked like us, to assess and diagnose and treat us, which are very different from the other populations.
I mean, this is definitely a challenge because data shows that, look at Serena Williams. When she did her documentary and she had a baby, she had to advocate for herself with the doctor. She was saying, I don't feel right. I need help. and she really had to push the issue before she got the care that she needed. And if she hadn't had, the determination to advocate for herself, she would have not gotten the level of care that she got. Like when I gave birth to my first daughter, my first child was my daughter. They took her out of my room the first night. And I was so tired and so exhausted, I didn't put my foot down.
And you got to think about
that negatively affected our ability to bond.
Yes. And if I can piggyback on that, being persons who are often, and those who are educated and have the resources, as you mentioned, Serena Williams, they're in a better position. But what about those persons who are don't have the resources that many of us have? Those persons who may not be educated
right.
as much as others are, and or have access, or live in those underserved communities, those rural communities. They are different. I mean, they're treated differently, and again, they are. I would say I'm disenfranchised.
Yeah, I think there's definitely, people think, we're disenfranchised from the political system. I think we're even more disenfranchised from the medical.
That's correct.
Because, even looking at coronavirus, there's a large number of people who don't trust the vaccine. I'm one of them. Like, I don't feel comfortable getting it. I'm gonna have to a lot more black people get it and be over. Or I'd be like, okay.
Well, Z, I'm going to say, get the vaccine, okay? Get the vaccine. I got the vaccine. Don't get me wrong. It was a challenge. I did.
Which one did you get?
I got the Moderna.
That's the one I think. If I do get it, I'll get the Moderna. But definitely not the Pfizer.
Right, but I will say that I'm alive and well. I've seen some of the memes online, and I haven't turned into a gorilla. I don't have an extra eye, and my memory's still intact. And if I may mention that, and again, thank you for having me on your show. In light of the coronavirus, the COVID-19 virus, we as African Americans have been impacted, as the data has shown, dramatically, right? And this disease not only has it impacted the way we interact with one another, but also you got to think about it. This disorder also has impacted resources, and if you're with very little resources, you've been challenged. And what about those who suffer from Alzheimer's or other types of dementia, who have, been exposed or diagnosed with this disorder? That conversation has not been had, at least in the circles that I have been in. So how do we engage the community becomes the question. To have these conversations, how do we get those resources out to the people that need it? And more importantly, how do we ensure that the safety and welfare for those families and loved ones who are suffering from Alzheimer's and other types of dementia are cared for?
Right. That's definitely a big concern. So I'm guessing that this question is one of the driving forces for you to start your international nonprofit.
Yes, I Care. It is a 501c3 nonprofit, which specifically focuses on African Americans, Latinos, and other underserved populations residing in urban communities, and those underserved areas that is very difficult to get to. And I'm calling for a national campaign to not only provide awareness and education, but also resources and research. In order to make a difference in this particular area, it will require a lot of education. a lot of education. Again, going back to some of those things we talked about before, trust. And if there's no cure currently, then that means then there's a need for research. Then how do you recruit and retain people in research, right?
Right.
You got to reach them. And I think the way we interact as African Americans, oftentimes our level of participation comes from trust. So we're going to have to do things a little differently. I'm going to have to put it out there. We're going to need the churches, right? The small churches, mega churches, those political leaders who've been put in, empowered in positions, those doctors, lawyers, the first responders, the teachers. We're going to need a collective approach in order to, not only get the word out, but to develop the sense of trust within the communities in order to combat this disorder.
So I've seen the suffering that happens with someone who is going through the final stages of Alzheimer's.
Yeah, we say they die twice. They die mentally first, then physically later. There's 2 funerals.
Right. And I remember as a child just being terrified when she would go into these rages and be like, get out of my house. Like, she didn't know who we were. She couldn't remember. And it's a serious issue. I know anytime I see an article about how to improve my brain's cognition and everything else, I know I definitely try to do that. I know there's a study recently that came out that's saying, the more sleep you get and the more deep sleep you get, it chemically washes your brain and reduces the probability of developing dementia. And sleep deprivation is a big problem in the Black community.
Yes. I believe that there's different techniques that we can do. There's different skill sets we can adopt. Our diet plays a major role in it. So there's things that we can do to help reduce the onset of Alzheimer's. Now, keep in mind when oftentimes I'm teaching about the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia in the community. I often begin by saying dementia is a general term that just means memory loss, permanent memory loss. Then there's subcategories under this topic of dementia. And the most prevalent is Alzheimer's, this disease. And so remember, you have the large, I would say the umbrella of dementia. Then there's different types of dementia. So Alzheimer's would be a type of dementia. And then there's many more that falls under that category of dementia, like Parkinson's. And then there's vascular dementia. Vascular dementia is related to vascular disease, hypertension, diabetes, which we know, again, affects African Americans disproportionately greater than any other population. So it's almost like we have a double whammy. We suffer from Alzheimer's disease and vascular disease, which leads to permanent memory loss if it's uncorrected.
Yeah.
So
it's a serious issue.
Yes. And so how do we get ahead of it? And how do we educate the community so that we are better prepared and we have the resources that we need to combat this disorder? And I think having shows like yourself that invite various speakers on to talk about it, including myself, is needed. This is very serious. And as I said before, we must collectively come together and start a national campaign.
Right. So how can my listeners get involved? How can they take action?
Well, I think for starters, how can they get involved is they can go to icare-alz.org. That's ICARE-ALZ.org. They have access, they can get access to all the resources there. They can also follow us on Facebook, and they can connect with us through Twitter as well. So, and again, the more people that are involved, the more we're able to connect and increase exposure and awareness is how we get the people involved. And nowadays, the whole days of meet and greet at the coffee shop because of the COVID, that has changed. So right now, we have to use social media and technology to really reach the masses. And again, I think that's where you come in your skill set, the SEO Queen, and helping us to expand our outreach and particularly using technology to do such.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Alzheimer's is definitely a very, very important topic, and no one is impervious to getting it. And there's a lot of things that people do in their younger years that can negatively affect them in their latter years.
That's correct.
So, what things can people do to maintain a healthy cognitive state?
Well, without getting too technical, I would say you must exercise. We're taught to exercise our bodies to keep it healthy, right? To get proper exercise, at least 15 to 20 minutes, to even 30 minutes a day. Okay. So the question I often challenge your listeners, and even some of my listeners when I speak about it, is that how do you exercise your brain? Okay. Yeah, your brain is also important, just as much as your heart, your kidneys, your liver, and all your other organs. You must exercise that mind. Okay? It's important. You can't become a vegetable on the couch, just watching television. Perhaps you may want to learn a new language. Studies have shown Sudoku has a very positive impact on stimulating the mind. Eating the right foods that stimulate, the brain cells to grow. We got to lay off some of the fried foods and some of those foods that are high in fat and bad cholesterol. You gotta exercise. You gotta get out and get sunlight,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Those things. You need the vitamin D. And so these are some very basic things that we can do
Right.
in order to stimulate those glial cells in the mind in order to help fight this disorder.
Wow. So I think, there's just so many resources out there, and I definitely want to urge my listeners, don't think this can't happen to you or to a loved one.
That's correct.
An ounce of prevention beats a whole pound of cure. So you definitely want to be proactive.
Listen, can you repeat that again? That sounds like a campaign right there.
An ounce of prevention,
yes,
beats a whole pound of cure.
Certified.
Right.
Certified. That's so important. If we know that there's no cure as of yet, we must be proactive and not reactive, right? Proactive. Let's have a conversation. Let's continue to be good stewards and do what's important, right? And exercise that mind. And for those seniors that may be listening who are approaching retirement, don't just go fishing, right? If you're going to go fishing, take your Sudoku with you, right? Make that mind stay active. Don't become complacent in some of your everyday, everyday activities. Try something different. Take a line dance, right?
Right.
Learn, if you don't, learn how to do the Cupid shuffle. If you don't know how to do it, learn how to ballroom. That's what we do. That's how we do it, right? Let's be active and proactive, and let's get the blood pumping to that brain, and let's get that muscle activated.
Yeah, those are some great suggestions. I actually use an app called Duolingo, and I'm studying Spanish and Japanese and I think Chinese on there.
You're trying to live to what, 200?
Well, you know what? I really
Years of age?
love languages. I really love languages. And yeah, I have Spanish, Chinese, and Japanese. I really love languages. And sometimes when I listen to other languages,
Yes.
I can understand what they're saying. And it's the weirdest thing. And I think I could become, you know, multilingual if I just, am consistent. And so I've been picking up a lot more Spanish.
Yes.
And at one point, I was close to being fluent in Japanese when I was younger. So
Okay.
I love languages.
Very good. Very good.
I just love being able to communicate with other people.
Yes. Yes. And again, those are very those are techniques or skills that you can adopt that would help stimulate that mind.
Right.
This where we are, stimulating the mind, trying to keep it as pure as possible, and allow room for more cognitive development.
So what research have you looked at as far as the impact of reading and music on cognitive?
Yeah, there's so much data out there, Queen Z. Even I recall, going back to my dissertation work. Mm-hmm. It all focused on music, and if you are a person that grew up in the average Black home, music is within us. We are music. I mean, going back to Africa, the beat of the drums.
Exactly.
So music has it plays a very important role. And if I encourage the listeners, if they visit the website, icare-alz.org, and if they click on the resources section, they will see a small video there that focuses on a African-American male named Henry and how he responds to music in a nursing home. Very, very powerful video there. It's a very short clip, and I encourage your listeners to do such.
I'm definitely going to check that out.
Yeah, again, that's one of my areas of passion, music. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, when I was studying, I studied with a very famous, world-renowned ethnomusicologist who just took me through the history of music and the impact of music within the African American culture. And from there, I began to take it to the next level and look at its impact on behaviors. And again, we know that music plays a very important role.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
In the Black community. So with that being said, why don't we use that as a way to help, fight this disorder? Let's use our voices. Let's use it through music. Let's use it through what we are passionate about and which we have carved a niche in. And that's music.
Absolutely. I in order to stay healthy, mentally, it's really important for you to, pursue your passions, exercise your mind, learn something. Don't limit yourself. Just continue, just having that beginner's mind, that, the lifelong learner. That's so important.
That's correct. And if you look at the data on some of the other populations, mm-hmm. Again, the studies have shown they do many of the things that we're talking about. Like we look at the Asian community, they participate in Tai Chi.
Right.
Right. And there's a children's book I've written about that, Tai Chi. If you look at, again, some of the other populations, they live a lot longer, and the prevalence and incidence of cases related to Alzheimer's is less. Their diets are different. They're more active, after age 65 and older. The level of engagement and community participation is different. Right. So these are things that we can learn from others and adopt to our own culture to help us be more vigilant in fighting Alzheimer's disease.
Absolutely. So tell us more things about your Dr. Harris.
More about
I'm sorry.
More about what?
Your books. All these books.
Yes. There's. I tell you. One day I was sitting with a group of seniors, and there's so much wisdom that comes from them. And I recall one of the seniors were talking about their grandchildren and how she was getting older, and sometimes she gets their names confused, right? And then it dawned on me, wow, what a powerful statement. And truly, in an African American community, there's a special bond between the grandparents and the grandchild.
This is
right. Now, as the immediate offspring of the parent, now we may get treated differently.
Right.
But the grandchild gets treated so much better, right? So there's a special bond there. And then it dawned on me, how do we teach the grandchild that my dear, big mama, how do we teach them that they're about Alzheimer's disease or other dementias when, as the grandparent begins to age and their memory starts to fade and they no longer remember the grandchild? Powerful, very powerful, statement there. How do we teach them? How do we teach the child that, their grandparent no longer remembers them and or calls them a different name or just, has difficulty eating or caring for themselves? So these books are meant to teach the child and their parents about, some very common, language related to Alzheimer's disease. It also gives them, in the book, there's definitions. There's a brief glossary there and also resources listed in the book. So I'm going to continue to reach that population of folks, the next generation, that is. And that's so important. Each generation must be a step ahead, right, to pass on that knowledge. And that's the generation, I believe, that nowadays they're very creative. They're very proactive. They have a large voice. They have access to resources, more so than maybe you and I had, growing up. So why not put the knowledge in their hands? And why not engage them? Because I'm going to get older one day.
Right.
And as my parents have gotten older, and I want someone to be able to care for me. Exactly. So these books do just that. They do that. They're very diverse. They're multicultural. I mean, there's also a book it's called The Music Within Me. It's written in Spanish. Again, stimulating that mind, right?
Right.
And if you can't understand the language because you don't speak Spanish, copy and paste the word into Google. It'll translate it for you.
Translate.google.com.
That's right. Yeah. So I'm really excited about the work. And it comes from my heart. And I just, I'm hoping that we continue to spread the word and get more people involved.
That's awesome. So We're coming close to the end of our time together, but for those who are listening, this
Yes.
is the SEO Queen Tech Show with my very special guest, Dr. Joseph Morris. And I'm just really thrilled to have him here to talk about Alzheimer's. And just one final question before you share with our listeners again how they can contact and connect with you. The
Yes.
question is, what have you learned throughout your medical profession that can help those entrepreneurs out there who are listening? A lot of my listeners are entrepreneurs, building their careers. I mean, Franco Lacosta came on here a few weeks ago to the show. He's the
Awesome.
creative director of The Bachelor, and he was just talking about, finding your soul's purpose and weaving that into your work. And it's just, he has such a remarkable professional journey. So I'm very curious to know, like, what golden nuggets do you have for our listeners?
Well, I think it's only right that I stay in my lane and talk about what I know and what has become not only evident and evidence-based,
Mm-hmm.
and that is you must keep your mind healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
A healthy mind is, to me, is more powerful than the atomic bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I think the NAACP said it many years ago, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And keeping your mind active, keeping your mind sharp, allows you to have vision, allows you to have purpose, and allows you to think beyond the ordinary, beyond today, beyond tomorrow. Your mind allows you also to connect spiritually with a higher power. So the more we exercise that mind, the more we keep it sharp, the better we become.
There's a scripture, I believe it's First Timothy, the second chapter, and the 14th verse. It says, "Study to show thyself approved, a workman needing not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth." And I think that is such a powerful word, and it's exactly what you said.
Yeah.
When you study, you can move through life understanding the truth.
The
And
key word, you're right, study. And in order to study, your mind has to be
healthy.
healthy. That's
Healthy.
right.
Absolutely.
That's correct. That's correct.
Well, it has been a pleasure and an honor. Thank you so much for coming on to the SEO Queen Tech Show, where I'm speaking with your host, Zhe Scott, and my very special guest, Dr. Joseph Morris. I'm not going to mess up your name. I got it right.
Thank you again. As I said when we first started, it's an honor and pleasure. Listeners that are tuned in, they can learn more about the resources that are available and more about Alzheimer's by Googling or logging on to iCare. That's ICARE -ALZ.org. So that's iCare or hyphen ALZ.org. Thank you again for having me. iCare-ALZ.org or iCare-ALZ.org. Now, if you put iCare_ALZ, you're not going to get us. You might get someone else, but let's get you to the right place, so that you
the dash or the hyphen.
Yes. Depending on what language you speak.
Right.
Right. So let's get people to the right location so we can put the resources in their hands.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, the pleasure's mine. Please be safe out there, everyone. The COVID virus is real, and again, we it takes a community to combat this, and we need you healthy. Thank you again.